Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. Actually, episode 7 of season 2 with Talking with Ty. Guys, can you believe we are already to episode 7 of season 2? We have kicked off this season with some amazing people, and I just had to continue. I couldn't kick the door down starting with an amazing person and not give you guys amazing people all the way through. So today we definitely have another special guest that is going to drop some gems. So I know it's lunchtime for a lot of people. If I were you, I would get my pad and my pencil or pull up your notes. See, I didn't even put my phone on Do Not Disturb. That's what happens when you're live. Or I will pull up my notes on my phone because I'm sure our guest today is going to say a lot of things that you guys are going to want to take note on. Again, I am Ty Jackson, your host. If today is your first time logging on with us, guys, Talking with Ty is an unscripted lifestyle podcast, and we focus on the story behind the brand. Every Tuesday, a guest is invited to have a conversation with me to touch on the personal side of life because I believe that everyone has a story, and it is our story that truly connects us to each other. So today, guys, I have a special guest on with me. Today, I have the privilege of talking to my girl, Stephanie Anderson. Stephanie brings a wealth of experience and a unique 360-degree perspective to the multifamily industry. As a working mom of four, she has successfully navigated the challenges of balancing family and life and a thriving career with over 16 years of property management experience. Her journey includes roles as an operator, a nonprofit association manager, and a supplier partner. That's just what we have on here because I know Stephanie's role includes so much more. And we're about to find out just how much more. So please, wherever you are, whether you're at your desk, in your car, in the break room, at home, in your home office, please give us a huge round of applause and welcome my girl Stephanie Anderson to the stage. Stephanie, welcome.
Hey Ty, thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming on, Stephanie. And you know what? I don't know if it's the universe not wanting us to have this talk because the first time that you and I were supposed to be on with each other, I wasn't feeling well and I canceled the show. So thank you for even carving out the space to come back. And then today I wake up and girl, I almost feel like I got COVID. But I'm like,
Oh
oh, I'm over here sipping on some pineapple juice. So, guys, if I start coughing, Stephanie, just take the wheel. I know that you are amazed with working through chaos and things like that. So, if it gets a little chaotic on here today, you just fill in for me. But really, Stephanie, welcome to the stage. We know you from being with Grace Hill. I know you from seeing you at NAA and all the apartmentalized events. But today, we want to know who is Stephanie Anderson? Who are you, Stephanie?
Well, I am a working mom of four. So, first and foremost, I always say I'm a mom because that is truly what my calling in life is. I firmly believe that. And I just love to share with the world. And I also think it's important to show that we can have careers and we can also be, superstars inside of our homes as well. And so, outside of being a wife and a mom, I love the apartment industry. I have been serving the apartment industry for almost 17 years now. And I can't imagine doing anything else, Ty. I know you can understand that.
So, where did you start out in the apartment industry?
It's a great question. I actually started out as a part time leasing consultant. So I had no real intentions of working in the industry. In fact, I didn't really know that the industry existed. I was shopping for an apartment. And I was in college. I was in my senior year at Virginia Commonwealth University, go Rams, right here in Richmond, Virginia, and just was shopping all around. I had a super tight budget, but I wanted to feel safe and I wanted to feel included and wanted to find it somewhere where I could be myself, somewhere that I enjoyed living. And so shopping around everywhere, Didn't know where I wanted to stay, just knew that this was my second apartment. The first one was horrible, and I didn't want to relive that scenario. And as I walked into the office to tour at this particular community, it was owned and managed by UDR. They said, "Hey, have you ever considered working in the apartment industry?" I'm like, "Nope, never. Don't even know what it is. Don't care. I really need to find a home." I was so close. This was November of 2006. So I was going to be graduating in May of 2007. So we're talking, I'm kind of like in the final stretch, being super close to that finish line and wanting to go and do what I went to school for, right? Because that's what we're supposed to do, Ty. We're supposed to graduate high school, we go to college, we get our degrees, and then we go into the working world, or at least so I thought at the time. And so didn't really think much of it. And they said, "You know what? We'll work with your school schedule. You can come in and work." I worked most weekdays from like a 2 to 6, which was great for me. And then they wanted someone to work every weekend because those who were full-time didn't really want to work the weekends. And I'm like, "Hey, that works out great for my schedule. I'll do every single one of them." And that's what I did. And again, it was more so I got a rent discount and I made some extra money. There was no intentions for me to stay there. They knew that. I knew that. It was kind of like, this is great. It's a learning experience, and move on. What I found though was the connection that I started having with people and how cool it was to help someone find a home. And I couldn't get past the fact that I could get a leasing bonus for doing something that I was already in my job description. And so just
extra money to do this.
right. It was really cool. And I enjoyed doing it. It was fun and I had great leadership. And then the time came for me to leave. It was time for me to leave. I just graduated high school. I'd already signed an offer letter to work for a company. The company was called the Little Gym, which some people may still have them in their areas. Unfortunately, we closed ours here, but they are a gym that focuses on children from like 6 weeks up until about the age of 12. And they really work on skill building and development and cognitive skills. And they do dance and karate and mommy and me classes and all the things. And I had signed on to be an area trainer for my region. So I would go and work with franchise owners and train them on how to do these programs and hire their staff for them, recruit, train, operate, all the things that I love to do. And they said, "Well, the office is in Scottsdale, Arizona, so you're going to have to travel there." And I said, "Fine. I'm not married. I have no kids. I only have a cat. I'm ready to roll." And so that was my big wig, corporate kind of job. Well, UDR decided they wanted to keep me on during that time because they said, "You could just work one Sunday a month. Like, we see the value in you. You bring great ideas. You could still work and still get your discount and not have to be, sold on being here all the time," because I would travel a lot. And I said, "Okay, if you're sure, I'll make it work." And one Sunday kind of turned into 2 or 3, depending on if I was in town. I was happy to work. And then I found out that the life that I thought I wanted wasn't as fulfilling as what I was doing right here in the apartment industry. And so I went and had a conversation. There was a full-time position opening up about 6 months later. And they said, "Are you interested in it? If so, it was yours." And the rest was history, Ty.
You know what? The story, it echoes across the industry
Yes.
because, and I wonder why, because Ashia, I know you're out there and she's diehard about RPM careers, and Shelly, and they're working on this huge initiative. And I think we actually serve on that committee together, and we're always talking about bringing awareness to our industry. But every time we all tell our story about how we ended up here, it always happened by accident, because your story sounds so familiar to my. I was moving to Memphis to work at the Regions Bank corporate office, and I was looking for an apartment.
Yes.
And fell in love with the industry. But I think that's the unique thing about the multifamily industry also. This is not I went to school to be a doctor for 12 years. I have all this debt for it. I have to stay in this industry. This is I fell in love. It's your perfect love story if you really think about it. And I think that's why we all mesh so well together and we really become family in this industry. So, okay, so started out, wasn't even going to be a leasing agent, something totally different, fell in love with our industry. So how did you grow? So you started as the leasing professional on part-time. How did this progress into where we are now?
It's a great question. You know, it took me many years to go from a leasing consultant to an assistant property manager. And I like to share that with people because I think it's important. Sometimes, and myself included, we have big goals and big things that we want to achieve in life. And we put a timeline on it. And we know it's not about us, it's about his time. And so I like to mention that because it's super, super critical. For me, I really wanted to grow and I kind of was feeling stagnant, wasn't growing, but knew that there was a lot of opportunity. And at the time, I was working for a very innovative company that now, when we talk about centralization, they were doing that, 16, 17 years ago in terms of having what they called pods. And so I could work at 4 to 5 different properties, but work out of a corporate office. So you were almost like a traveling sales agent, a traveling real estate agent. And that was kind of cool because when we talk about product, oh, you only want a 2 bedroom, looking for these amenities. It was easier to find because I had a larger pool to pull from.
Mhm.
And especially as people talked about what their price was, I've got to stay under this amount or I have to do this. It was really a lot easier to do it. And so that was great for growth. But when I finally made that jump to being an assistant property manager, I liked it and then didn't like it. I'm not a big financial person. I'm not one that wants to sit at a desk and work with financial numbers. Can I do it? Absolutely. Is it my forte? Nope. Definitely don't want to do it. So I actually made a switch after I'd been in the industry for about 4 years and took a lateral position as an assistant property manager with a different company that had kind of a different mindset in terms of what their assistant property managers did versus the traditional.
Uh-huh.
And that allowed me to really be more focused on leasing, make a little bit more money as an assistant manager without giving up that leasing commissions, because oftentimes those in leasing positions can make more than assistants. And so I was still very driven by that with money, but wanted to get the opportunity to grow as well and be kind of involved in those finances. But I tell you what, the one thing that I did, and this is no promos here, I've been saying this for, at least the better part of a decade, was that I got my CAM.
Yeah.
And that was really, really instrumental. I did it as an assistant property manager, had no idea what it was. My leader at the time was the one who was encouraging, hey, you should go get this. The company will pay for it. I went, I took it, I did a CAM slam, which is where you do it all in 1 week. And it was amazing and loved every second of it. And that was back when you had to do a project. So I had to do a dreaded project. And here I was 8.5 months pregnant with my second child, had a toddler at home, an 18-month-old boy running around, and everybody thought I was just insane to even attempt it. And let me tell you what that did for my career. It took off after that.
Mhm. Well, you know what? I love that. And I love that you shared that it took some time from leasing to assistant manager and that you were 100% transparent about you really didn't enjoy the assistant manager position once you got there. And I think when I look back on my time on site, the most favorite role that I served in on site was the leasing position. I
Mhm.
always tell people now, if I could be a glorified leasing professional at an AA, it would have to be an A plus plus property.
Yes.
I would go back to the leasing. I would go back to my leasing days any day of the week because that is the part where you're most connected
Yes.
with people. But when I see you in your role today and I see all the things that you do, I can see why God kept you in that position as long as he did, because you referred to God when you said he wanted you there and it was all about his timing. Because now the things that you do today, I'm sure when you think back, it was the seeds being planted when you were in the leasing position. It was the things that you felt most connected to when you were serving in that role. So that's amazing. So we were on site and then we became a supplier partner. So how did that transition? How did you pivot to the supplier role?
Yeah, I would like to say that it was fully calculated and intentional because I do try to be intentional about a lot of things in my life. But this was a really organic approach. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, would I be serving on the dark side, as they call it? I would have been adamant the answer was no. And mostly because I felt at that time that I would be giving up everything that I had worked so hard for on this side of the business, not thinking about the value that you could add in a different manner, not thinking about all of the flexibility and the other great things that come with it. For me, it was just no, I'm very rigid. I was trained to do these specific positions growing up through director roles for owner management companies
Mhm.
that it just was never a thought for me. And then I went to go work for NAA.
Mhm.
So that was kind of that jump from the operation side to the nonprofit association, your
Okay.
world, Ty. And, for me, the biggest part was how could I give back on a larger level? So for me, working for a management company, I could share all my ideas, everything that I thought, was happening in the world. But, we kind of have to keep a little secret bundle here and there, right? We don't need to give out all of our secrets. But if I worked where I could level myself up, I could help more people. I could share my knowledge more and be in a different position where I could help others and not just those serving within my organization. And that was kind of a thought process that clicked for me and said, you know what, I could go do this on more of a national level and help everyone and serve in a greater capacity than what I was already doing.
No, I love that because when you think about this industry in the terms of it's bigger than me, then I think that's when you truly start to walk in your purpose and start to find your path because this is a huge industry and a lot of us we stumble on it. So it takes time to know it. If that makes any sense, when you're on site, the leasing position, an assistant, and you aspire to be a regional manager. And sometimes you get a great trainer and it makes your mind think about maybe I could be a trainer. But it's not until you go to apartmentalize or till you're exposed on that national level to where you're like, well, if I did this, this, and that, I could touch more people. And for women, I could open up the door for more women. For Black women, I could break barriers. I could create a seat at the table. And just like you, I pivoted from being on site to the supplier part, to the supplier role also. But I like that you said I was scared to leave because I had did so much on site. I had, and I have friends out there who like, no, Ty, I've been a leasing agent. I'm gonna be a regional. Now
Yes.
I might do something else when that's over, but this has been my goal since I was 25, and this is what I'm going to do. So, people out there who have that rigid way of thinking, now we need great people on site. So, if that is your
Absolutely.
goal and that is your God given talent and your passion, continue that path because we need great people to grow in those positions. So, when we do get leasing professionals that are new to the industry, we create an experience that allows them to stay. But if you're only staying there out of fear and you know that you're meant to do something so much bigger in this industry, the supplier way is a way to do it because it's not about selling. People say,
Yeah,
I don't know how to sell, Ty. I've never been a person to sell. Well, me neither. But I'm a relationship girl.
absolutely.
So the relationship is how it happens. So one fun fact, I never knew that you worked at NAA. I just
Yeah.
know you're Stephanie from Grace Hill.
I know. It's funny how people know different times. The whole a reason in a season, and people know you throughout your journey, and they know you for different things. And yeah, so I have some people that still think I work for NAA, and I think that comes from they'll see me on LinkedIn, and they know I'm still doing things with NAA in terms of conferences and volunteer work and things of that nature, and they just assume. And then with us having our faculty being a part of that and facilitating courses, they just put the two together. And I'm like, no, I'm with Grace Hill now. So it's always interesting what sticks with people.
I like that, depending on where they knew you from in the journey. And
Absolutely.
like you, I have been so many places in this industry. So they probably like that's tied with who is she with now? So yes, I'm the AE in Arkansas now. So
That's right.
so talking about NAA, I know that you're a public speaker. I know that you're an advocate for education through NAAEI. I
Yes.
know that you're faculty, and I know that you're also a strong advocate for DE&I. So
Yes.
let's talk about that space. Would you say that working with NAA and all the things that you have done on site gets you to the point where you're at now, where you're able to be allyship, you're able to be a mentor, you're able to be that person that speaks another person's name when they're not in the room?
I was raised by two very strong women, my mother and my grandmother. And I did not have a male figure growing up in my life. Not that that is good or bad or indifferent. It was just the way that I was raised. And so from an early age, I was really instilled a lot of values in terms of working hard. Being someone who couldn't make ends meet all the time. And that
Mm.
was really important to our family we just knew you went and worked even if you had nothing, and you worked really hard for it. So I had those values coming up, that was just something that you did. And I also knew the struggles that women had faced. My mom had lost her father when she was a little girl. He had died after he came back from the war. So she did not have male upbringing. So here I was, my sister and I, being raised by two very, very strong women who were just finding life and working as hard as they could. We were raised in a neighborhood, and I went to a school system where I was the minority.
Mhm.
I didn't know that back in the day because, I always would say I didn't see color. Now we're going to fast forward and know why we don't say that anymore. But back then, that truly was a part of me. I didn't see myself as Stephanie, the white girl over here who is less than 10% in her school district. It was literally, these were people that I was raised among. And so for me, I think that plays a crucial role when you think now, when you're fast forwarding into why allyship is so important for me. It's because there was not a lot of talk about resources and inclusion back then. It was something that I had to learn over time, and equity and the importance of it, and how I do strongly believe that I'm a hard worker, but I've also gotten things given to me that I have earned, but that other people that had worked just as hard didn't get because of who they were, whether it was their race or their gender. And so that to me is super important. I can't just go and get in the elevator and leave anybody else behind. If I'm taking that elevator up, I've got to send it back down, and I've got to bring the other people back up. And so I attribute that, again, I think knowing that little bit of history in terms of how I was raised and who I was raised amongst plays an important role for how I view those around me.
Girl, I was looking for an emoji so I could push the like emoji, the heart emoji. I'm like, where is the emoji so they can be popping up on the screen? Stephanie, I love that, because when we facilitate about microaggressions and DEI, we talk about everything comes from your past experience. We are who we are today based on the experience that we had. And every time that I talk to a white woman that's an ally, they all have a story of a humble beginning. When I talked to Alex Jacku, and she told me that her parents came from a camp in Germany, broken English, poor, it all makes sense. And that's why I love sharing the story behind the person, because it's the story that says, okay, that's why Stephanie is who she is. That's why she sends the elevator down. And when you said, if I'm going to go up on an elevator, I have to send it down, I thought about a terminology I heard the other morning. I think her name is Irsi, and she's in our industry. And she said, climbing to the top does not have to be a ladder. It can be a jungle gym.
I like that.
We all can get to the top. And once you get over, what I see with the elevator is hovering over the top of that jungle gym and holding your hand down and bringing up other people. And that's what it's truly all about. And if we all felt that way, we would be serving each other so that we all could get to the top.
Agreed.
Girl, if we ended our talk right now, 23 minutes and 17 seconds in, you my homegirl for life. Like when we showed up wearing pink, I was like, okay, me and Stephanie on the same page. She's super cute. She's been in the industry for a long time. But as you talk and talk, Dana is my twin from Virginia already, but she's my short twin. We might be triplets, because she talks about you all the time also. And now I feel so much more connected to you just from, like, I was one of them girls at your school that was like, come on, Stephanie, you can hang with me.
Yes.
Like that. I love that, Stephanie. So education, public speaking. How did you get into public speaking? And what, because I've never been blessed enough to be in a room where you were speaking at. So what are the kind of topics that you speak on, and how did we get there?
I first raised my hand when I was with the Virginia Apartment Management Association and said, I want to start speaking. And I don't even think I used the word speaking. I said, I want to start knowledge sharing, because I was going to all the events and really just engaging with people and sharing what I knew. what was the next step? And they said, well, you know, that was a smaller association at the time. They've grown tremendously over the time. But at that time, they were smaller and they were not paying facilitators, you know, so this, unless they were doing CAPS, for instance, but for what is now the CALP, you know, and CAM and CAMT, all those things, they said, you know, we are looking for those who are instructors who want to come in. And this was even before I had my faculty certificate from NAA. And I said, oh, I'll come teach the, you know, leasing part. I will help judge the presentations. I will, you know, do human resources. They love to give me human resources with Sam, you know, and I would do those things and just show up, and I would work for organizations that would say, okay, you can go volunteer your time to do it. And it was really, it got great experience for me. It got me in front of people, even if it was only 5 to 6 people at a time. It got me engaging with people, sharing what I knew, and helping others to earn a certification that I felt so strong and passionate about. That's right, Marcy, class of 2014. Marcy and I did our facilitation through NAA together. You know, the best, worst, and hardest experience we ever go through.
Yes, definitely. Been there, done that.
So that's always the first step that I tell people is raise your hand and say, I want to do this. I started speaking at morning coffees. I started a group with another person who was in the industry at the time. She was a director of marketing for another organization. And we said, how could we break barriers in terms of financials? You know, a lot of people can't come to events because either their companies can't afford it or choose not to, or the individual shouldn't have to always pay for their education because they don't have the resources. You know, if you're making an hourly rate and you want to expand your knowledge, you've got to feed your family or take care of yourself. It's not always an opportunity for people to come to things. So we said, let's start this nonprofit. Let's have an opportunity to bring people together. And we started off doing one event a quarter. We partnered with suppliers who would provide lunch and little fun, you know, takeaways, grab bags, all the different things. And we would talk about topics mostly pertaining to leasing and marketing in the industry. And that was another way. We did a lot of panels, and this was all in person because, of course, pre-pandemic, everything was in person. Right. And it was just a great opportunity to do it. So that's kind of how my journey started. I never, you know, went and took professional speaking classes because can you do those things? You absolutely can. Yeah. But I think it's just important, if it's something you're passionate about and you want to do it, do it. Definitely. You don't need anything behind your name to say that you are certified to do it.
Well, you know what? I think we live in a time now, and especially since COVID, where a self-stamp of approval is okay now. You know what? I'm a speaker. Yes. You know what? I'm an author. Self-proclaimed titles is a new thing now. And maybe it started with Instagram. Just, hey, I'm a model. I'm a makeup artist.
That's right.
You can be whoever you want to be. And I like the fact that you said, raise your hand. If you're out there and you like, I just don't know where to get started, but this is what I'm passionate about. I have a message. I have something to say. Yes. Volunteer when those opportunities come about, and when the free ones, before you can get to the money, you might have to do some free stuff first. So, because like you said, before I went through AFT, I think, Marcy, give me my date, girl. I think it was, I think I went through actually last year, amazing class, and it did sharpen my skills. But like you said, it's not something, I wasn't taught how to be a speaker. It's a message that I'm passionate about.
Yes.
I'm passionate about this industry, how it's evolving, and what it did for me as a woman, what it did for me and my family, and how it's, you know, I just want to give back to something that has given so much to me. Yes. But like you said too, I raised my hand and I was out there. So before we leave the speaker topic, though, I know that you're a speaker. You help a lot of speakers. My girl Dana Duckworth, kudos to Dana, talks about you all the time and all the opportunities that you've helped her secure, that you've talked to her about. DE and I and the speaker, if I can go there, if I
go there, let's get uncomfortable. I love it.
Let's get uncomfortable. If you're uncomfortable in your seat, then stay here because this message is for you. So when it comes to being facilitators, I think sometimes us as Black women feel like we're in a rat race for topics, or we feel like they only want me to talk about DE and I. and I'm so much more. I was a leasing agent, I was an assistant, I was a supplier. There's so much more, but DE&I is not just the topic. DE&I goes into leadership. It goes into leasing classes, assistant manager classes, because it's part of every single thing that we do in this industry. So what is your take on that? What would you say to facilitators like myself who are trying to break out? And it's like we've been doing this for years. And it, like when you see a Taraji P. Henson and you're like, where did she come from? But then you start to research her and it's like, she's been on Broadway, she's did this, she's did that. But it took a star role for her to come out. So what would you say to that, girl?
I would say that, share your knowledge with anyone who's willing to listen. Sometimes that's going to be a friend. Sometimes it's going to be a colleague, someone in your company, events that we go to through apartment associations. Start by having those important conversations, but it doesn't have to be a black or white issue. I always start with that because the first thing people's minds that they want to go to is black and white and DE&I. And we know that it's not about that. And it's not even scratching the surface with that. But so often people say that. And I'll tell you, when I first started with wanting to talk about DE&I first started interlooping it into top trends. So one of the things when I worked for NAA, it was the number one request that I got from companies and associations across the country was for me to come and do presentations that I would do every year on what the top 10 to 15 trends are, depending on how much time I had to present. And it gave you enough knowledge to be dangerous. And companies loved it because it was, okay, this is a trending item that I need to be on the lookout for. If my company wants to invest in it or start thinking of it, here's critical next steps. But it really was an opportunity to get your mind flowing, get your mind thinking about these things and whether or not your company was going to embrace it. That's when I started including that because it was really, really important. That was also when I was really pushing for people to take unconscious bias courses, tests, things of that nature. So we're talking about 5 years ago, and I loved putting that. So I always say, if you're going to talk about anything, everything goes back to DE&I at the end of the day in terms of moving our operations and our business forward. So you can intertwine that in. And I think it's great to speak on topics that are not directly related to that and then put it in there because sometimes we do have the old pale stale thinking. I told that to Dana this morning. She's like, pale stale. I'm like, you know where I'm going with it, the way that they think. And I think it's, interesting to not overwhelm people with some sort of topic like that in the beginning, but to slowly start to bring it into an organization so that they can make sense of, oh yeah, that relates to me, or, oh, we're already doing that. And then it starts to go. It's interesting to hear the perspective that as a Black woman, you're hearing people, go to you about those topics. I kind of have the opposite of it. When I started talking about DE&I, they're like, you're a white woman. What could you possibly know or share? And the most uncomfortable I'd ever been was last year at TAA. I was asked to speak on diversity, equity, and inclusion in Texas, of all places. Okay. And sorry if you're on here from Texas, I do you all. But there's a little bit of a difference there in terms of, what their thoughts are and how they're moving towards operations and that. And several people questioned me being a speaker and said, what could you possibly share with someone when you're not from that perspective? And it kind of caught me in my tracks for a minute because I said, you know what? It's probably my whiteness and experience that got me on this platform. And now it is my duty to share my allyship and talk about these things because you are more likely and more susceptible to hearing me speak about it in the beginning when you're like, whoa, step away, than you are to someone else who may be in that space to talk about it. So it's interesting to see that different perspective because I never want to step on anyone's toes, right? I never want to be in that position where I'm taking from you because you would have an opportunity to do that. But if they would never look at you to give you that opportunity, then shame on me for not making space in that room to still talk about what's important.
Yes, no, I love that. And I hate the fact that anyone would ever say that to you. What could you bring to that space? Because like you said, DE&I is not black and white people. Neurodiversity, people who think different, LGBTQ, like there's so many other components to DE&I, but it seems like every time, and I'm just like you, it goes to black and white. I think when I said the rat race, though, I think it's and that's amongst other Black girls, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we just want a Black speaker. It could be anybody.
Because they've got to check that box.
There you go, right there. It could be Dana, it could be Ty, it could be Ashia, it could be Marcy. We just have to have one person. So now it goes to pricing. Well, just give me whoever has the best price.
Ugh, which I hate that.
So then it's a strategy of.
But you could be smarter than them, Ty. Back that up. Be smarter than them, and y'all all align on your price, and you all ask for maximum pricing on that.
Well, that's the phone. That's the phone call that we have monthly. So, and it is a strategy. It is something that we have to do. We have to make sure that we're all in alignment with each other when it comes to pricing. Now, we're not boycotting or anything like that. Like in real estate, we're not setting commission fees or anything like that, but being in alignment with each other so we can make sure that the best person is getting the opportunity.
Absolutely.
But I think you bring so much to the stage and to the table when it comes to the topic of DE&I. Even going to a school where you were a minority, it's still, white people can feel things too and feel discriminated against, feel lonely, feel left out, feel excluded. Hispanic, Asian, Black, like it's not just a Black person's thing for DE&I. And if anybody out there feels that way, like, you stand corrected today, because that is not what it is. So I'm definitely glad that you said that. So when you got on the stage, what did you talk about? What did, like, but because I've never probably been in a space where, now I guess I have at anything I've been at for NAA to talk about DE&I. I probably heard non-Black people talking about it. But what did you talk about? What do you talk about when you're in that space?
You know, for me, it was really about bringing awareness first and foremost to the conversation of what are some starting points. Because, you know, anytime you talk, it's great to share knowledge, but you've got to give key takeaways. What could you actually bring back to your organization today, tomorrow, next week, and start to have those important conversations about change? Because that's how change comes. We got to make that impact, and you've got to start bringing things to the table. And interestingly enough, when I was talking during that, one of the first things that I brought up is the makeup of the leadership. What do they look like? What experience do they bring? So again, we're going past the whole race and we're looking at, you know, are there people from different backgrounds and aspects, cultures, what they bring, and then what kind of experience do they bring? Because if everybody looks like me, acts like me, has experience like me, that's a pretty boring world and a pretty boring company, and you're not excelling to where you should be. So starting to look at that, and I pointed out some examples immediately of companies. You love to go to their Meet the Team page and you see who the team is, and you're like, okay, these are people that are making decisions for the company, but you're not getting anybody else a seat at the table. And then I'm immediately met with, oh, you're going to tell me that we're supposed to promote someone or hire someone from a specific background just to check the box that we did it, which is not what we do, you know, but we do need to have different perspectives. And so starting to, I don't want to say poke holes at things, but essentially that's what you're doing in the beginning, is starting to make a realization for people to say that aha moment of, oh yeah, that is different, or we're not doing that, or how to think about it. And the number one challenge I'm met with every single time is the person in the room who raises their hand and says, hey, I am just a leasing agent. I am just a maintenance supervisor. I don't make decisions, you know, that our senior leadership team would. How is this applicable to me?
That just word kills me when they say that. You're not just. We're going to take a small pause for the calls for our leasing professionals that are out there and our maintenance teams that are out there.
Yes.
The property would not survive without you.
Not even.
I always tell the leasing professionals, but you know what? Without you, there would be no money for the assistant manager to post, and there would be no money for the property manager to pay bills with.
That's right.
It all falls on you. And without our maintenance, we all know you're just as good as your maintenance team.
Absolutely.
I could fill every role in the office if everybody walked out. But if you lose your maintenance team, you are in trouble. So it definitely does not work like that. So we talked about how you got into this industry. We talked about the things that you are passionate about, as such as DE&I, facilitating education. So now let's move around to I would say lighter note, but you're a mom of four. So so, so I don't know if that's moving to a lighter note or if we're going deeper down this rabbit hole that we're in. So, mom for Stephanie, I'm a mom of one and a wife, and I'm going crazy every single day with all the things that I have going on. You are not only a mom of four, but how old is your youngest?
He is 11 months.
Okay, so
I'm in the trenches, girl. I am in the trenches.
A whole baby at home. So a mom of four with one of them being 11 months. You have a full-time job.
Yes.
A personal brand. A TikTok guru. Honey, I've been all on there and seen your videos about Brookie. I was like, how did she make that? And when he was in the car and said, Mom's going to get me a power wheel, I'm like, how? We need some TikTok classes. So let's talk about balance. How do you show up for your family? And Annie, I don't know if you saw my interview with Tony Sosa, and I'm not going to let those tears stream again. But how do you balance it all with four kids, Stephanie?
It's really hard. My fourth child was such a blessing. When I tell you that he knows more than me and what I need in my life, I can't tell you that more. God gave me a child I did not realize that I needed. And it is an interesting perspective for someone who, like me, who went through infertility struggles, to then be blessed with a baby that was very unexpected. Was like, I'm old. At that point, I'm pushing 40. They say, oh, you're, geriatric.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's great. My body isn't the same as when I'd first carried my first child almost 14 years ago. And it was a different experience. And there were times that I had to drop to my knees many times last year, because I didn't know that I could do it. It was hard. It was hard pregnancy physically on my body. Mentally, it was hard. We were still in the pandemic, going through things starting to normalize again. And it just wasn't exactly where I had seen my life at the time. And I thought, how am I supposed to raise another child in a world that can be very ugly and hard, and working and trying to be all the things to all the people? I didn't know if I could do it. And I'll never forget just being on my knees and saying, I can do hard things. That was my quote of last year. I would say it to myself over and over again, with the mindset that if I said it enough times, Ty, I might actually believe it, because I didn't believe it at that point. But I will tell you that one of the biggest mind shifts for me was thinking less about balance and more about blend, knowing that I can't be everything to everybody and that I have to prioritize things, what's most important to me. I would love to be going out and, spending more girl time. And, I tell my friends all the time, I'm not the best friend that I could be right now, because I'm in the trenches and my kids need me more. We're at that, time in our lives. Mm-hmm. And luckily I have people surrounding me who love me and understand that, and that they're willing to support it. I'm also very fortunate that I have a village. My husband is 50-50. He is a man of God, a man of his word, and man, does he do some amazing things for our house. I will fight him till the death to bathe the kids, to do hair, to pick out clothes, to read bedtime stories. That's my time with them. This man cooks. He cooks, he helps do laundry, he helps with cleaning. Those are things that if I didn't have that, I would probably be drowning more. Mm-hmm. So that's really important. My mom plays a huge, huge role in my life and helping with my children. And, I do attribute again, to having that village. I think it's super, super important for those people who don't have it, because I know that I am fortunate enough in that. I like to remind people that, again, you have to prioritize and you can't be everything to everybody. That's where vocalizing is really important. There are certain things in my career that I will not stand for. And flexibility is one thing that I must have. I must have you to know that I'm going to still put in 60 hours a week at some given point in time. I'm going to work my butt off and get things done. But a lot of times it has to be on my schedule because I have other things going on. And, to have a company that supports that is super, super important to me. And I know that everybody doesn't have that. So when you hear me talking about flexibility in the workplace and how it is possible for even those in leasing and maintenance roles, that's why I push it so hard, is because it is necessary for people to be successful. And, mental health, it is huge. It's
Mhm.
huge, not just because it's a topic right now, but because it's always been a topic. People were just scared to talk about it. And now we have no choice but to confront it head on. And employers have to do better. They have to do better for their employees to be able to do those things. So when you talk about that blend, it's going to be messy some days. I'm going to be a great mom one day, and I'm going to feel super guilty at the end of most nights that I didn't get everything done. And I want people to know that that's normal, that, what you see, the 30-second reel you see every day of my life, I do try to be real. I show when I'm crying, tears. I can't stand to leave my kids. I try to show the realness of things. But at the end of the day, it's not easy. No matter what, it is not easy.
No, I love that because it's not easy. And I think being transparent and sharing that, there's moms out there that are going through the same thing. And women need to know that, hey, we're all struggling when it comes to trying to have a successful career, but trying to be the best mom that you can be
Absolutely.
also, because times have changed. And it's a scary thing to send your kids off to school and fly away and be gone for a week to a conference
Yes.
and with so many things going on. But just to backtrack a little bit, one of the things that I heard you say was fertility issues.
Mhm.
I think that's something, and I backtrack to that because that is something that a lot of women experience. Even
Yeah.
me, I adopted. I adopted from having fertility issues and not wanting to go through in vitro. I
Yeah.
didn't want to spend the money. I didn't want to give myself the shots and
Get it.
didn't want to go through the emotional roller coaster of what if it doesn't take the first time?
Yes.
What if it doesn't take the second time? And God did the same thing for me. He blessed me with a child that, honey, I never thought I wanted. I did not think that. I never thought that I wanted. And Titus is my cousin. And I adopted him when he was 7 months, and he's in the first grade now.
Wow.
And he does balance me. He does give me a sense of purpose and make me go harder and make me, not be afraid to walk in my purpose, because I want to show him that and for him to be able to do the same thing. But for women out there that are experiencing fertility issues and still having to work, still having to juggle life and getting older, and people, when are you going to start a family? What would you say to a woman that's experiencing something like that?
I would say that it's hard and that you're not alone. And I know that seems cliche. I do, because you hear that so often. But I think it's important to have a sounding board, have someone you can talk to about these things. And a lot of times it's not a partner or a spouse that is that receptive to hearing it. You need to share it with someone who just listens and listens to understands versus responds, someone who's going to be there for you and understand what you're going through. It's hard to drop things at the door. So when companies say, when you come in the door, you should be dropping, whatever personal is going on in your life. I think that it's important to say maybe that's not a company for you, because you're going to be yourself at work, and in order to be that, you're going to bring some baggage with you, and that's okay. I hate the whole, things will get better. I think you do have to trust in a higher power, whatever that would be for you, that there is a grander plan for you and that it will all work out in the end. And I know that that's so tough, because there's so many people out there that want things in their life that don't have it, and there's barriers in their way to prevent it. And I can relate. I can understand. People see me and they think that, I live a perfect life. And I don't ever tell my stories so that people feel sorry for me. I do it because I want you to know that there's an opportunity for everybody out there, and that, again, you're not alone. You're going through things, and there's always someone here to, help you and listen to you.
I love that, Stephanie. I always try to pull out when I'm interviewing people. I like to pull out the things in the story that would make me be connected to that person, that would make me want to do business with you, make me want to work with you. And some of the things that you've said today, even starting out being in a school where you were a minority, if you were my supervisor, it would be like, well, you know what? Stephanie understands me. She's
Yes.
been around people like me. My natural hair is not exotic to her. The way that my fashion is not overwhelming. When I'm passionate about something, I'm not too aggressive for her. So telling the story is truly, I mean, you proved me right once again. The story is what connects people. And I
Yes.
want, I know Stephanie and I have not talked, planned this call out or anything, but the fertility thing, I had to hit on that because if you look around in this industry is 95% women.
Yes.
Now, maybe not at the top, but if you look around the middle and the bottom,
Yep.
all women in this industry, and there are so many women out there that are experiencing the same thing, that's sitting at their desk right now, have an appointment this evening, or have to give themselves a fertility shot, or this, that, and the other. So I just want them to know that they're not alone in that. And so
One thing I want to mention, Ty, with that just I just thought about it. I started writing a lot about infertility and miscarriage and things a couple years ago. When you think that no one is listening to you, even when you post on LinkedIn, because you might only have 1 like or 0 likes or whatever, know that people still see you. And a lot of times it's the people that don't want to necessarily engage with that post that it's resonating with. And I was so pleased when the CEO of a very well-known company in property management reached out and said, I hope you know that we now have a bereavement policy for those who have miscarried or stillbirths, and went on to talk about how important that is. And I do know that there are companies out there that are also doing things like infertility treatments, and they help with those costs. Just those things that companies can do, it just means the world to people, because if I'm giving you so much of myself day in and day out, and you can offer me that, whether or not I even utilize those services, or it's the fact that it's there, that it was offered to me, it makes a huge difference.
when I think it makes you work harder for a company,
For sure.
that is amazing. That because when a company cares about you, you care about the company. When I was working for Apartment Finder, I remember my sister getting sick with the flu, H1N1 and the swine flu.
I
Back
remember
when
that,
all of that was
yes.
going around,
That was a big thing.
got sick to the point, like went down, and I can talk about it now because she's fine. I lead with that. She is 100% okay, guys. But went down on the respirator. Went
Mhm.
in ICU, telling us she was not going to make it through the night. And I was working at Apartment Finder. I had just started with them when this happened. And I had to leave and come home. And when I tell you, Michelle Childers, Jill Tice, Marsha Bollinger, those ladies, go home. Do not call us talking about no Apartment Finder stuff. We will go
No,
in because I'm like, I'm calling them and they like, how is your sister? And I'm like, well, I'll be back soon. They like, hey, you take care of your sister. We will go in the market. We will service your people. I had never had a company ever do that for me. And it changed me as a leader too, because I'm going to talk about the company, but I had never did that for anybody either. I don't know had I ever been put in that dramatic of a situation, but I've been put in a situation when I wasn't a mom where I was the leader of moms. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't understand your child being sick. I didn't understand you can't come to work tomorrow. Because I worked in the office and the pressure is on me. And if
yes,
you work in an office that's a leasing office, there's one job for everybody to do. And if that
absolutely.
person doesn't do it, but the culture had never been created for me. So I love
That's
that
key.
you said that, because once I became a mom though, and I realized sometimes stuff just happens. I might have to turn this podcast off right now and run out of here because something is going on at my baby's school.
Yeah.
And everybody has to understand. And it wasn't until that I understood what it meant to be a mom that was a leader. So, okay, I confessed. I told you guys I was a horrible mom leader before I was a mom. I'm like, no, can somebody else do it? Get somebody else to do it. You need to come to work. But I like that you said if a company does not create that type of culture for you moms, It just might not be the company for you to be working at.
Yes.
I love that. So before we end, because we are almost at the top of the hour,
Well,
I
that
know
flew by.
time flies when you're having fun. When
That's
you're
right.
having a good conversation, it does that. I know we talked about personal branding a little bit in TikTok, but let's talk about Stephanie on TikTok, because everybody always tells me, well, did you see her TikTok videos? Did you see? And so I have the pleasure of
Oh.
going through and stalking your TikTok page. But did this start during the pandemic? When did this start for you? And what are you doing with this platform?
That's a great question. I feel like I've tried to do a good job in terms of showing my authenticity, across the board. I feel like I was one of the first pivotal people about 4 to 5 years ago on LinkedIn to start really putting their kids' pictures up and really talking about what it was like to be a mom. And, I always love when someone posts on LinkedIn and they're like, I know this isn't Facebook, but, and I'm like, why do you need to say that? Because it's who you are at the core. It shouldn't be either or, right? It shouldn't be that Ty, working her public speaking business or taking care of her child. It's all lumped into one. So, of course, it's fine to share those types of things on that platform. But I did try to be very intentional with it. But at the end of the day, it's still professional networking. I don't think everybody wants to see too much of me with kids all of the time. So Instagram was and Facebook is where I would put a lot more of that content. Well, obviously video is king, as they say. And, people would put out videos, and I thought it was really fun. And I'm going to really get some deep nuggets here. I decided last year, because I had posted a little bit on TikTok, but hadn't really done much. Last year, I was pregnant unexpectedly. Life was a little bit more chaotic than usual. And my husband and I, found out that we were having a boy. We wanted to surprise the kids and tell them we'd already done the big gender reveal before. This was the fourth child. So we had already done a lot of those things. For us, it was, we found out together, and then we were going to have the kids cut into a cake and find out if it was a boy or a girl. Well, we decided to videotape it for ourselves as like a great memory. My youngest at the time had just gotten up from a nap. So she has on no clothes and just a diaper on. Well, let me just tell you what the TikTok people had to say about me and my parenting. It was a great video. People loved my oldest daughter talking about what a great second mom she would be and all these things. But for the most part, people ripped me apart and said, I cannot believe you would be bringing another child into this world when you can't even potty train the child that you have right now. And her hair looks a mess because, again, she had just gotten up from a nap. Me being just very genuine, posted a very genuine, let's just say they questioned everything about me. Here I am, very hormonal and pregnant, and thought to myself, I questioned everything. I had to take a break from TikTok. Mental health, I had to walk away and say, this is not okay. Now I have started back up again and have posted videos this year. And those haters are back. They are back, Ty. And now I can actually say, that's a direct reflection of those people and how
That's
they
right.
treat things. And I like for my TikTok channel to, again, show a different side of me that people don't necessarily see on the other platforms. I want to be fun. Being a parent is hard. I want to show that it's hard, but I also want to show that it is the most unconditional love and the best thing that I've ever done in my entire life. I want to show the tears when I'm traveling, leaving my kids, but also the fun time that we have on the events we do. I mean, I just want to showcase, you could think of it as like a lifestyle, what people get a look into my life and, enjoy it. It's meant to be fun, but also, include some serious things. And I do think it's just another way to showcase a part of me that people may or may not know. Because I've been called unapproachable before, Ty, and I don't like and I think people just get intimidated. Yeah, the first time I was ever called that, I'm like, oh my gosh, talk to me at conferences, come up to me. I'm a hugger. I love to be around people. But you know what? Their perception was their reality. And so it helped me to think, okay, how else can I be someone, showcase a little bit different side of me that everybody else gets to see in my house every single day?
You know what? I love it. And I love when your daughter said, we're getting a dog.
Yeah.
We're getting a dog. Mom, are you having a baby or are we getting a dog? She was so I love it. And I
And
think
we got the dog too, girl. We did get, so we got the dog too. We might have been crazy, but it was our chaos.
look, I see that you have a Frenchie.
Yeah, we have two Frenchies.
Yes. So one, I think we're haters. You're just gonna hate.
Yeah.
Anytime you put anything out on social media about your kid, it's just naturally that there's going to be some people in there that's going to say some things. I totally get it. I put a video out there about Tidy last year and he said a curse word. It was funny. It was funny. It was. I died laughing. And over 17,000 other people thought it was funny too. But in those comments, I did get some comments, but I know how I'm raising my child. I know what I'm doing. And so I'm just like, I delete them. And I don't shine a light on anything negative, and I just go from there. So you are amazing, Stephanie.
Ditto, my friend.
Thank you so much for coming on Talking with Ty today, from sharing everything from your journey of how you started from being a part-time leasing professional to pivoting your career to NAA to Grace Hill and all the amazing things. But really, thank you for being an ally. Thank you for sponsorship. And thank you for standing in the gap and standing not with just Black women, with all minorities, all people that are different, and all people that need someone like you to be a voice. Tell the people, if anybody is looking to book you, if anybody is looking for a speaker, how do they get in touch with you and what does that look like?
Great question. Always the easiest way to get in touch with me is my LinkedIn. I'm very active on there. It gives you kind of a brief overview of the top topics that I speak on, and just, DM me right on there. That is always the easiest. Of course, you can email me as well, but people find that is the most successful way to get in touch with me, and very quickly. And it's my true identity because I verified my government ID on LinkedIn. So it's me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. You are my sister for life. I cannot wait to see you in California and just be able to hug on you and love on you even more. And I feel like today I just gained so much more insight from you. And I love hearing the story behind the brand. And I feel more connected to you. And I hope everybody else does too.
Thank you. Please send me exactly what colors we're wearing on the next trip, because this was not planned, but I love it. We got the earrings going on,
yes.
bright pink.
We are in tune. This is what you call alignment, honey. When you are in alignment with the people that God preordained and predestined to be in your journey, it just happens like this, and you happen to be one of those people. Stephanie, thank you. Have an amazing day, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Thank you so much, Ty. And thanks to everyone for watching.
Yes, thank you guys so much. Have a great day.